In this video and in this project, we're going to look at the last major project that we have in packet number 3. I called it Ron's Pet Store, and one of the things that I wanted to show you in this one is that, first of all, I used a picture box up here at the top, and I went on the internet and I grabbed a GIF that was in one of the stores and I added it to the picture box just to kind of dress up the form a little bit. But the really fun thing about this one, when you pick an item from the list box, you'll notice that it not only puts in the name of the product like we've done before and the price, which you know how to do. I also added a little picture box over here, and I have little thumbnail photos of the little animals that I'm selling. So if you want to look at a sheep, there's a sheep and a puppy and so forth. Okay, so we got two picture boxes on here, regular list box. These are both text boxes, and you also notice that when I started the program, I made sure that the quantity was 1. So at least they're going to buy one of these things at my store. So it just saves a little typing by my clerk. And when I do checkout, what it does is it goes ahead and computes the sales tax and the total due. And if I, of course, want to buy 10 rabbits, then it changes the values accordingly. Okay, one puppy, let's say we're having a sale, he's $19.95, so they can still change the values in the text box as my clerk can, but at least when it starts it'll have the initial pricing. If you want to spend a lot of money on a horse and so forth. And you'll notice that I was careful, if you're going to buy 5 horses, to make sure the money is formatted properly, dollars and cents. And on this one here, you'll notice, I'll show you how to do it, but on the one that shows the little animals, I told the picture box to center, do automatic centering of the image. Okay, so I got to remember to show you how to do some of those properties. Alright, so let's take a look at how we actually made this thing work. Let's take a look at some of the properties to begin with. The first thing I want to show you is the form, and you can see in the properties window that I called it FRM main. But I want to show you something I hadn't done before, I don't think, and that is when I save the file onto the hard drive right here, I renamed it from form1.vb to main.vb. Now this always confuses people, but the actual file name on the hard drive is going to be main.vb, but the logical name used inside of Visual Studio is FRM main. Okay? I set its start position to center screen. I sent its text to say welcome to Ron's Pet Store. I don't believe I did anything else particularly. This is a picture box up here. I called it PIC banner, so this is for my banner, and the image for it is inside this images folder that I created, and you can see right here Pet Store banner small. It's just a banner that I took into Photoshop, changed its size, and then here are all the little JPEG files for my animals, and I put them in an images folder just like this, and then I load those dynamically. So you'll notice the picture box doesn't have anything showing in it at design time. That means I am running it at runtime. You can also see the same thing with the list box. There's nothing in this items collection at design time. That's why nothing shows up there. Okay, so we load all this as the program runs, and then we display it in there. And I'll show you how I did that. These are regular text boxes: TXT item, TXT price, TXT quantity. These are just usual labels with the 3D effect. We're not doing running totals. We're not doing any counts. We're not doing any of that kind of stuff. We're just kind of showing you how you can add pictures and use picture boxes. It's just a lot of fun, and just jazz up your program just a little bit. Okay, so let's take a look. I don't think there's anything else on here. Let's take a look at our code to see how I did this. Open this up for you. Now you'll notice that I had put in a reference here to a namespace for the system drawing image so that you could actually put images into picture boxes and so forth. I put a note here that said, you know, I really didn't need to do that after all. If I comment it out, it works just fine. I want to show you what this means. In Solution Explorer, one of the things that Visual Studio does, I'm going to open this up. If you don't see references, let me show you. If you don't see references in this list, come up here where it says Show All Files. and then you have a references one. And you'll notice that one of the things that VB puts in automatically is imports the system drawing namespace already. So since that's already been put in there by default, I really don't have to declare it again over here. Alright, but I didn't realize that, I don't think, until after I built the thing. So I just wanted to show you what that was about. I'll get rid of this. Let's take a look at how we load our the Listbox at design time, at runtime rather. As soon as the form loads in the form load event, I come in here and I tell it the image from file for the picture is going to be over here in my images folder. Now the way you do this, I think I've shown you before, but you say the name of your picture box, mine's PIC banner dot image, so the image property of that is going to be equal to image dot from file. And you would think, again, this looks so redundant, you'd think it would say picture banner dot image dot from file, but that would be too easy, I suppose. But make sure that you know how to do this or have it written down somewhere, because there are going to be times when you're going to want to do this. And then I think I told you here that my pet store JPEG is inside of an images folder, but I have to tell Visual Studio to move up 2 levels to find it. Now let me just go back and briefly tell you. When Visual Studio runs, the default folder that it's pointing to, the default path, is pointing down here to where your assembly is. This exe that's compiled and turned into intermediate code is called an assembly. And Visual Studio is pointing to this subdirectory right here. So in order for it to see my images folder, I have to say change your directory back up here 1 level, and then change it 1 more level up here so that you can find my images folder. And the way you do it in .NET is you're just going to do dot dot, that means come back up to another level, and then you use 2 backslashes, another 2 dots, backslashes, and then it'll find your images folder. If I was to take all of these images right here and copy them into my debug folder, I wouldn't have to do any of this. I would just give the name of the image, but that wouldn't be a good way to do that, so I didn't do it that way. Alright. What we're doing here in the Listbox, I'm simply doing in code what we have done before, adding items and prices in our Listbox at design time. So check this out. All I'm going to do is I'm going to say, alright, with my Listbox I call LST products, I'm going to start adding items, and in parentheses, because this you're going to tell it what you want to add, and in double quotes, remember, because this is all one long big piece of text, I type birds, and then I do space, 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 hold the space bar down, put in my price, space bar some more, and then I put the name of the JPEG file that's going to show up as a thumbnail. Alright? So if they pick fish, I'm going to be able to take this part of the string, fish, put it in one text box, come over here, grab the price, put it in the price text box, and finally come over here to the end of the string and tell the picture box, hey, go get this picture and show it in the picture box, so that when they click on these things, everything works as they click on the list box. So notice I'm doing this dynamically using the selected index change event of Mr. Listbox. Remember, when you click on a list box, Visual Studio keeps track of the index number of your item, and it says, well, if it changed, I got to go see if there's something for me to do. Okay? But in the form load event, we're going to load all these items, and all this stuff is hidden. Now you can't see it in the list box at design time. Your program actually has to run. So again, we are doing stuff in code that before we've always done at design time. Again, just to show you a different way of doing things. And then down here is where we make it all work. Let's open this up. Using the mid function, again, like we had before, I'm just going to take the first 10 characters from whatever they picked, trim off the blanks, and put it into my item chosen variable. I've created 3 variables up here: one for the item they chose, one for the price, and one for the name of the photograph. Okay, that's all I did. The same thing here with the price. I'm going to start at column 20 and take 15 characters. Remember this 15 thing. Start at 20 and count 15 from there, so that takes you over to 35. Down here, I'm just going to say start at column 40 or character 40 and go to the end, and that will hold the name of my picture. So you can see up here. Alright? So these first 10 characters that it comes over and gets is going to take the item. It's going to come over to column 20, wherever that is, go about 15 spaces. Okay, see, it leaves me a little bit of room, so I don't have to worry about getting these all lined up just perfectly, because we're going to trim off all the blanks anyway. Then we come over to column 40, which is over here somewhere, and go all the way to the end and pick up the name of the photograph that we're going to put in the picture box. Remember, with the mid function down here, if you don't tell it where to end, it just takes wherever you tell it to start and just runs to the end of the string. That's the easiest way to do it. Okay. Now, the only thing I did up here that's a little different, you guys, I set the text quantity in the text box, I set it to equal to 1 just to save typing. And as soon as they click on an item, I go ahead and clear the tax and the total amount so that it can be updated every time they pick a new item. That's all I did. And you'll notice that I've declared these as local variables because I want it to change every single time. I'm not keeping running totals. I want to just start over. I could have, instead of using variables, I could have put them right here directly into the text boxes here, but I'm just using variables so that you get a little practice using them. Finally, after I do parse this is called parsing, parse these strings and get the pieces and parts in my variables here, I go ahead and I assign them to the text boxes so they can see them. And then again here, the picture thumbs picture box is going to go and get my images based on the name of the item they picked. Now I'm getting item photo, that string, I'm getting that from the selected item. So this is no different than what we've done before with just items and pricing, but now we're going to pull 3 things off of that list of things that they chose in the list box. That's all. And I wanted to show you before I forget, in this picture box they have a smart tag on this thing. See this? If you click on that, it gives you a very short list of some of the very popular properties that you could do. So you could come in here and choose an image, say local resource, import, and you could point to any kind of image and it would automatically do that at design time. I don't want to do that. But what I did want to do is I wanted to center the image. Notice what you can do. You just pop it in there normal. You can stretch the image so that it matches the width and length of the picture box itself. You can tell it to auto size, but I just like center image because what it does when it runs, I don't know if you notice this, it leaves a little bit of a border around the picture. See how it does that? And I just thought that looked kind of nice, that's all. Alright, so it's just a personal thing and an aesthetic thing, however you like to do it. But I just wanted to make sure I showed you that. Finally, with the checkout deal right here, we tell it that I'm going to keep track of my number of items right here. I'm going to keep track of the sales tax, the total price, the tax due. Notice I've declared all these as money and as an integer up here. I've initialized my variables, and then I'm go ahead and I'm going to get my item price by taking whatever they typed in this text box here and converting it to a decimal. I'm going to take the number of items that they wanted, convert it to an integer, put it in this num items variable. Then I'm going to assign a tax rate. Now this right here needs a little explaining. Whenever you take a variable and when you initialize it and you say, well, it's going to be anything but 0, and you're giving it a value like this is called a literal string. What it means is this sales tax rate variable, it literally equals 0775. Now what this is 7 3/4 sales tax. Sometimes you will see people add a D after this, and the reason is you want the compiler to actually treat this number as a decimal, and I went through a long explanation to explain to you right here why it happens. It turns out that the compiler takes a number like this and it interprets it as a long integer. Well, this isn't a long integer. I want it to be declared as a decimal, so that's why I put a D there. Okay, so you can read through this a little bit. I put this in here for you so you can see it, and then if you want to see the different type characters like the D and some of the other ones that they have, I have a link for you right here. You can copy that and go to the Microsoft site and you can check out all the other characters that they have. Okay, now down here the only other thing that I'm doing is I'm computing the amount due. We're going to multiply the sales tax rate, which I've defined up here. Okay, by the number of items, and finally by the price itself. So I've got that in memory under tax due as a variable, and then finally we're just going to format tax due as money. And in this case, remember, I'm using format number because I don't want a dollar sign to show up. If I wanted a dollar sign, I would have used format currency. So I'm saying format this number, tax due, that variable, and I want it 2 decimal places so it looks like money. And then we're just going to do the same thing down here. I'm just going to take the price, multiply it times the number of items, and after I do that, then I'm going to add the amount of tax. And finally, we take that whole mess, format it as a number again with 2 decimal places, and put it inside the text property of the label so that it shows up. This down here is just the normal me close event. So once again, what happens is I click an item, and you notice that the quantity was 1 because I put that in back in my code. And when I go check out, it does the math, puts the answers in there. No running totals, no running counts or anything like that. Just a fun little program that shows you a little bit about constants and literal strings, and also about how to grab more information out of a list box than just simply the item and the price. And again, we're picking 3 pieces of information. What you need to remember is that this line right here in quotes is all one string. You can put 50, 60, 80, 100 different items out here if you wanted to. All you have to do is remember which column they start in, which column they want to end in, trim off the blanks, and you can do whatever you want. Okay? Now normally you wouldn't do this like this. You'd do it in a database or a text file or something, but we haven't learned how to do that yet, so we're just doing it this way. All right? Now I don't think there's anything else that I forgot out of this thing. If you find something, make a note, and you'll have to ask me. Okay? Anyway, that should get you started on Ron's Pet Demo, and that kind of ends our discussion of Lesson 3 packet. Thanks.